Today we're going to talk about backlog refinement. Backlog refinement is the act of getting backlog items and breaking them down into smaller items which are more precise and easier to understand. The goal of backlog refinement is to produce 1 to 2 sprints of items that the team can go pick it up and start working on. Backlog refinement serves to clarify the contents of a product backlog item. It's often said that's about the 3 C's: card, conversation, and confirmation. Obviously, these days there are no more physical cards. We use tools to do that. But the principle exists. We pick up one backlog item, we talk about it, and after that talk, we have a confirmation of the purpose of that product backlog item. Note that backlog refinement creates functional specifications, not design specifications. Backlog refinement is not a design meeting. However, it may require expertise from outside of the team. For instance, risk reduction, legal, compliance, security, and so on. The Scrum Guide is relatively silent about refinement. It tells you that you should have refinement. It doesn't define how you should go about doing refinement. A common practice during backlog refinement is to create a definition of ready to be worked on. It's a checklist that basically tells the teams, if we did this, and that during refinement, if those conditions are met, we're relatively sure that we can start with that item without too many surprises. It doesn't need to be as tight as the definition of done. However, it has to have enough information that is checked against a list so you can reasonably assume that very few surprises will come up. In order to get an item to the ready state, ready according to our checklist, to our definition of ready, you may be doing some other activities during refinement. For instance, splitting the item. We all know that large items don't flow very well. Smaller items always flow better and faster to the system. So splitting is very important. It's also important to note that when you split items, you should endeavor to have them about the same size. Obviously, it is difficult to make everything exactly the same size, nor is that the purpose. On average, they should be equivalent in size. Again, remember, small items flow a lot faster. Some other activities that you do during backlog refinement is estimating the effort to complete the item, and things like writing acceptance criteria and test data. One of the common pitfalls of backlog refinement is what I call parachuting. That is when the product owner brings the items to the refinement session and the team has not seen the items prior to that moment. When you parachute items into the refinement session, you're going to create a lot of churn. People are suddenly, I never seen this before. Hey, wait a minute, I haven't had time to read this. One of the ways to combat parachuting is for the product owner to, in advance to the meeting, create a list of backlog items that are going to be brought during the refinement meeting and give the team a chance to browse through those items prior to the refinement meeting. They can come up with questions, they can request, hey, I think this is too large, maybe we should split before we even go to refinement. All those actions are relatively simple. All it takes is to make those items known to the team, take questions. That doesn't require any formal meeting or anything of that sort. The pre-refinement can be done asynchronously. For instance, use Microsoft Teams. I often get the question, Q, how often do we do refinement? Well, like everything else, there is no cake recipe. But there are some approaches that most teams take. One is to have, for instance, an hour meeting every week. That's great when you have to bring external people to the refinement because you can put in their schedule in advance. It's a schedule, they know about it, they know they have to be there. You can also take the approach of having 15-minute discussion every day. Let's pick up one backlog item and refine it daily. Oftentimes that's done after the daily scrum because the team is already there. The daily scrum is supposed to be 15 minutes or less. You can take another 15 minutes or so to refine one item, maybe even two if they're small. There are teams that combine both approaches. They have to have external people come to the refinement, so they do a 1-hour session every week or so, and they also do a daily session. And sometimes they don't hold the daily one. We just did the daily scrum. Hey, we don't have anything to refine. We're good. Okay, let's not do refinement today. Whatever method you use, try a few different combinations and see what works best for your team. Another pitfall is endless discussions. I have a team once who spent an hour discussing one backlog item and it went nowhere. A good Scrum Master should facilitate the event and be aware of those things. If the discussion exceeds a reasonable amount of time box, and by reasonable amount, I don't mean an hour, the Scrum Master should say, hey, I think we need to hold on this item, move to the next one, and then we can figure out if we need to split this, if the item needs to be rewritten or whatever. But it's key for the Scrum Masters to be aware of this and help facilitate a productive event. It's important to remember that the more time you spend in refinement, the easier it will be to plan for a sprint or for a release. And it will very likely make things easier when you actually develop the item, because you already have a lot of knowledge of what it takes to get that item to complete. To summarize, refinement, it's a meeting between the developers. And by the way, you remember in Scrum, everybody's a developer regardless of what they do. So it's a meeting between the team members and the product owner, and there is the conversation about the item so we can have a confirmation of the purpose of the item. The Scrum Master has the role to facilitate the event and ensure that the event is productive. I hope you liked our discussion of backlog refinement, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.